Dr. Nathan Reed believed every person could be healed. That belief made him famous. For 20 years, people came to his office carrying things they could barely name. Fear, shame, guilt, anger. Memories they wanted to forget. Nathan listened patiently, spoke gently, and helped them become stronger. His patients often said the same thing after months of therapy. "You gave me my life back." And for a long time, Nathan believed that was true. Until the day he saw his former patient on the news. The headline was everywhere. Young CEO accused of destroying multiple lives through psychological manipulation. Nathan stared at the screen, unable to breathe. The man in the photograph wore an expensive black suit. He stood outside a courthouse, surrounded by cameras, police officers, and flashing lights. His face was calm. Too calm. No panic. No shame. No fear. Nathan knew that face. 5 years earlier, the same man had sat in his office trembling like a frightened child. His name was Caleb Voss. Back then, Caleb was 26 years old. Thin. Quiet. Nervous. He apologized before sitting down. Apologized for speaking too softly. Apologized for taking too long to answer. He was afraid of everything. Afraid of failure. Afraid of rejection. Afraid of disappointing people. Afraid of becoming like his father. During their first session, Caleb stared at the floor and said, "I don't want to be weak anymore." Nathan remembered that sentence clearly. At the time, he thought it was the beginning of healing. Now, watching Caleb on the news, he wondered if it had been the beginning of something else. Caleb had grown up in a cold house with a father who treated emotion like disease. Crying was weakness. Fear was weakness. Mercy was weakness. Caleb learned to survive by staying quiet. By obeying. By reading people's moods before they became dangerous. By the time he became an adult, he could sense anger in a room before anyone spoke. But instead of making him powerful, it made him terrified. He avoided conflict. Avoided risks. Avoided love. He lived as if every person held a weapon he could not see. Nathan wanted to help him. So he taught Caleb to separate fear from reality. Fear is not always truth, Nathan told him. Caleb wrote that down. Nathan taught him how to face uncomfortable conversations. How to set boundaries. How to stop apologizing for existing. Session by session, Caleb changed. His shoulders straightened. His voice became stronger. He started looking people in the eye. At first, Nathan felt proud. Then one afternoon, Caleb asked a strange question. Is guilt always useful? Nathan paused. Not always. Caleb leaned forward. When is it useless? Nathan thought carefully. When guilt keeps you trapped in something you've already learned from. Caleb nodded slowly. So guilt is just a signal. Yes, Nathan said. A signal. Not a prison. Caleb smiled. It was the first real smile Nathan had ever seen from him. But there was something about it Nathan did not notice then. Something missing. Warmth. Over the next months, Caleb became one of Nathan's biggest success stories. He left his dead-end job. Started a small company. Learned public speaking. Built friendships. Dressed better. Spoke better. Moved through the world as if he had finally discovered his own shape. On their final session, Caleb shook Nathan's hand and said, "You saved me." Nathan smiled. "No. You did the work." Caleb looked at him for a long moment. Then said, "You taught me that fear is optional." Nathan remembered feeling uneasy. But only for a second. Then Caleb was gone. 5 years passed. Nathan barely thought about him. Until the news. The report said Caleb had built a powerful consulting firm that helped struggling businesses unlock human potential. At first, his clients praised him. He made employees more productive, executives more confident, teams more loyal. But behind closed doors, something darker was happening. People said Caleb could identify their deepest insecurities within minutes. Then he used them. He made insecure employees compete for approval. Made lonely clients dependent on him. Made powerful people feel chosen. Made vulnerable people feel worthless without his guidance. He did not threaten people. He did not need to. He knew exactly which emotional wound to press. Several former employees described him as brilliant, charming, and impossible to resist. One woman said, "He didn't control us with fear. He controlled us by making us believe he was the only person who understood us." Nathan watched every interview with growing horror. Because he recognized the techniques. Not all of them. But enough. The language. The reframing. The emotional mapping. The way Caleb identified guilt and detached people from it. The way he turned fear into fuel. Nathan heard echoes of his own therapy sessions twisted into something cold and ruthless. That night, Nathan could not sleep. He pulled Caleb's old file from storage. The notes were careful and professional. Patient shows severe social anxiety. Patient struggles with shame response. Patient equates assertiveness with cruelty. Patient fears becoming emotionally abusive like father. Nathan stopped reading. That last sentence felt like a knife. Caleb had told him from the beginning. He was afraid of becoming his father. And Nathan had spent a year teaching him not to be afraid. The next morning, Nathan received a package. No return address. Inside was a black notebook. On the first page was written, "You taught me where people keep their locks. I simply learned how to make keys." Nathan's hands went cold. He turned the page. The notebook was filled with observations. Names. Weaknesses. Emotional triggers. Personal fears. Each person reduced to a pattern. A lonely executive. Needs admiration. A grieving widow. Needs certainty. A young employee. Terrified of being invisible. A divorced investor. Desperate to feel powerful again. Nathan felt sick. At the back of the notebook was one final page. A message. "I never became my father. My father used fear because he was stupid. You taught me something better. Understanding." Nathan closed the notebook. For the first time in his career, he was afraid of one of his own patients. 2 days later, Caleb called. Nathan knew it was him before answering. "Hello, doctor," Caleb said. His voice was calm. Older. Confident. "Caleb. You saw the news." "Yes." "Then you know they're lying." Nathan looked at the notebook on his desk. "Are they?" A soft laugh. "You sound disappointed." "I am." "That's unfair," Caleb said. "You should be proud." Nathan's stomach tightened. "Proud? You helped me become this." "No." "Yes," Caleb said. "You removed the chains. I helped you deal with fear. You helped me understand that most emotions are just tools." "That's not what I taught you. It's what I learned." Nathan gripped the phone. "Caleb, listen to me. Whatever you think you've become, you still have a choice." Silence. Then Caleb said softly, "That's why I called." Nathan didn't speak. "I want one final session." Every instinct told Nathan to refuse. But guilt is a powerful thing. especially when someone knows exactly where to place it. That evening, Caleb returned to Nathan's office. He looked nothing like the frightened young man from 5 years earlier. He was elegant now. Controlled. His movements were relaxed, but every glance felt intentional. He entered the room like someone who had already won. Nathan gestured toward the chair. Caleb sat. For a moment, neither of them spoke. Then Caleb smiled. This room feels smaller than I remember. Nathan studied him. You hurt people. Caleb tilted his head. I revealed them. You exploited them. I showed them what they wanted. You broke them. Caleb's smile faded. People break themselves when they meet the truth. Nathan shook his head. No. That's what cruel people say when they don't want responsibility. For the first time, Caleb's expression changed. Only slightly. But Nathan saw it. Irritation. Good. There was still something human inside him. Maybe. Caleb leaned forward. Do you know what I realized after therapy? Nathan remained silent. People don't want freedom. They want permission. He smiled. They want someone to tell them their selfishness is ambition. Their cruelty is strength. Their obsession is love. Their cowardice is wisdom. Nathan felt a chill. And you gave them that permission? I gave them what they paid for. No, Nathan said. You gave them poison and called it medicine. Caleb's eyes darkened. You still think you're better than me. I think you're lost. Caleb laughed. No, doctor. I'm what happens when your ideas are followed to the end. Nathan looked at him for a long time. Then said, no. You are what happens when healing stops at power. Caleb's face became still. Nathan continued. I taught you that fear is not always truth. But I never taught you that fear is useless. Caleb said nothing. Some fear protects us. Silence. Some guilt reminds us we have hurt someone. Caleb's jaw tightened. Some shame tells us we are moving away from who we wanted to be. For the first time, Caleb looked away. Nathan leaned forward. You didn't become strong because you killed fear. His voice softened. You became dangerous because you killed everything that could have stopped you. The room went quiet. Outside, rain tapped against the window. For a few seconds, Nathan saw the old Caleb. The frightened boy. The patient who whispered, I don't want to be weak anymore. Then the mask returned. Caleb stood. You always were good with words. Nathan rose too. And you were always good at listening only to the ones that helped you hide. Caleb walked to the door. Before leaving, he turned back. You can testify against me if you want. Nathan's heart sank. Caleb smiled. But ask yourself something first. His voice dropped. How many of your patients became better people? Nathan said nothing. And how many simply became better at getting what they wanted? Then Caleb left. The trial lasted 6 weeks. Nathan did testify. He told the court about Caleb's treatment, without revealing protected details beyond what the law allowed. He explained that therapy gives people tools. But tools require conscience. A knife can prepare food. Or it can become a weapon. A mirror can help someone see themselves clearly. Or it can teach them how to perfect a mask. Caleb was found guilty of multiple crimes connected to fraud, coercion, and psychological abuse. But even as he was taken away, he did not look ashamed. He looked at Nathan from across the courtroom and smiled. Not with gratitude. Not with hate. With recognition. As if they shared a secret. Months later, Nathan returned to work. But he was never the same. He still believed people could heal. But he no longer believed healing meant removing pain. Sometimes pain was information. Sometimes fear was wisdom. Sometimes guilt was the last bridge between a person and the monster they could become. Nathan changed the way he worked. He no longer taught people only how to become stronger. He taught them how to become responsible for their strength. Because confidence without kindness becomes arrogance. Freedom without conscience becomes destruction. And self-love without empathy becomes a beautiful name for cruelty. Years later, a young patient sat across from him and said the same words Caleb had once said. "I don't want to be weak anymore." Nathan felt his chest tighten. For a moment, he saw Caleb's face. The courtroom. The notebook. The smile. Then Nathan leaned forward and answered carefully. "Then we won't begin by destroying your fear." The patient looked confused. Nathan smiled gently. "We'll begin by understanding what your fear is trying to protect." The patient looked down. And for the first time in years, Nathan felt certain he was saying the right thing. Because the goal of healing is not to remove every shadow inside a person. It is to teach them how to walk through the dark without becoming part of it.